October 2019, Joker hits theaters with a modest $50 million budget, and boom! $96 million in its opening weekend just in the US and Canada. Worldwide, over $1 billion. At the time, it became the highest grossing R-rated film in history, cracked the top 100 on IMDb, and scored 247 award nominations, winning 121 of them, including 2 Oscars out of 11 total nominations. An absolute phenomenon. Fast forward to October 2024. Joker Folie lands with a massive $200 million budget, only to open with $37 million. Total worldwide gross, around $206 million. IMDb score, 5.2. Rotten Tomatoes, a brutal 32%. And just 25 days after release, the studio pulls it from theaters and rushes out the digital version. So, what the heck happened? I'm Mahmoud Hussein, and this is Visions. Let's talk about why so many movie sequels crash and burn, especially when they follow up beloved originals. Here's the thing. Most sequels, never part of the original plan. They're just studios cashing in on the success of the first film. And honestly, that's fair game. It is a business after all. But it becomes a problem when the original story had a perfect, satisfying ending, or when the concept simply doesn't need a second chapter. We've seen it before. Basic Instinct 2, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, Speed 2, Staying Alive. All examples of sequels that added nothing and left zero impact. Most of them ran into trouble during production too, mainly because key talent from the original films didn't return. And honestly, can't blame them. But what about when a sequel is planned from the start? Sometimes the studio still manages to tank the whole thing. Remember The Mask from 1994? Huge hit. They wanted a sequel, but Jim Carrey said nope. So we got Son of the Mask. Yeah, if there were an award for worst sequel in Hollywood history, this one would be a top contender. Or how about Justice League? Zack Snyder was building a whole cinematic universe for DC. He had most of it shot, but stepped away due to personal tragedy. Enter Joss Whedon, who rewrote scenes, reshot others, and shifted the tone completely. The result? A mess. Even the cast trashed it, and that movie pretty much killed the entire DCEU. Changing directors is a major sequel killer. Take the 90s Batman film. Tim Burton gets sidelined, and we end up with Batman and Robin, widely considered one of the worst superhero films of all time. Or Terminator, the first 2 films by James Cameron, legendary. Then he leaves, and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th movies pretty much tanked the franchise. It wasn't until Dark Fate in 2019, with Cameron back, this time as producer and story writer, that things started to turn around slightly. Even Spielberg refused to make a Jaws 2, but the studio went ahead anyway and gave us a sequel that did not live up to the original, which by the way won 3 Oscars and was nominated for Best Picture.
And then there's this studio interference problem. Let's talk Spider-Man. Sam Raimi nails the first 2 films critically and commercially. Then Sony forces Venom into Spider-Man 3 just to please fans. The result? A weaker movie, and the whole trilogy ends right there. 5 years later, Sony reboots with The Amazing Spider-Man. The first one? Not bad, but then studio pressure ramps up again. They try to create a cinematic universe, cram the sequel with villains, tease future spin-offs. None of it lands. The series is dead before it really starts. Yikes, I did it again. In 2015, Sony partners with Marvel, lending out Spidey to the MCU while planning their own villain-centered universe. 6 movies later, sure, a few made decent money, but every single one flopped with critics. That's what happens when creativity takes a backseat. A big part of why some sequels fail? The original idea was the main attraction. Unless you can meaningfully expand that world or evolve that concept, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. We've seen it across genres. Action, Taken 2 and 3. Thriller, Don't Breathe 2. Horror, The Ring 2. Comedy, The Hangover Part 2 and 3. Man, Kick-Ass 2 really didn't hit the same. That edgy, R-rated humor from the first movie just didn't land this time. No Matthew Vaughn, no Nicolas Cage, and honestly, you could feel it. The whole thing felt a bit rushed and kinda half-hearted. You want to know the usual suspects behind bad sequels?
Rushed production schedules, flashy effects but a hollow story, a loss of the franchise's distinctive tone, constant rewrites, the insistence on exploiting the franchise to the fullest extent, no real justification for a sequel in the first place, and worst of all, hype. The sky-high expectations fans have are nearly impossible to meet. But here's the twist. It's not always doom and gloom. Plenty of sequels do get it right, sometimes even outshining the original. And when that happens, it's usually because the creators saw the sequel as a real opportunity, not just a cash grab. But hey, that's a topic for a sequel of its own. Now it's your turn. What's the worst movie sequel you've ever seen? And why? Let's get into it in the comments. And if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you soon.